is for me. I can touch your secret place inside, and still you don't know me. Brand new venture, a brand new company, a brand new idea, something you're trying to do that's brand new. We have Jim Harter come in, and we're going to have a couple people talk about how to build the best team that you can, the best CEO, the best CFO, the best team that you can to get something new off the ground here in Pittsburgh. So Jim Harter's coming up. We're talking about building a leading edge management team, a leading edge team for anything new that you want to start up. And we have lots of entrepreneurs and innovators here in the room. Jim Harter's going to tell you why this theme is important to him, and how what he does during the day relates to the theme. And then we'll bring the three up. Go ahead, Jim.
There we go. Well, I was just out at Pitt this afternoon having lunch with my good friend Greg Katikia. And Greg's been on stage down here a couple of times. He is what he calls himself professionally promiscuous, which means he's a serial entrepreneur. And I'm not sure he's a serial killer, so but the bottom line is he, like a number of us, have been involved with a number of different companies. And I was telling him about the show tonight, and I said, the real situation is a mediocre team can take a great idea and have it be a flop, whereas a great team can take a mediocre idea and make it a success. And that's really what this event's all about tonight.
You're representing the CEO role tonight.
Mm-hmm.
So tell everybody, what is it like, the good, the bad, and the ugly of being a CEO, and what are the key things you look for in a successful CEO?
Well, I have to tell you, there's a few folks from my staff who are here tonight, and I am blessed. I am blessed with the work that these guys do. Because if it weren't for the work that they're doing, we would be nothing, and I would be nothing, frankly. You call me anything, I don't care what, it doesn't have to be CEO, but, and so, when you ask, what's it like, it's easy when you have good people around you like I do. And it can be hard when you don't, and we've had some hard, folks in the company who didn't work out. And that's the hardest part. That's the worst part about being in the chair that I sit in.
Having to let people go.
Well, having to let them go and having to try to work with them in a manner that helps develop their skills, but at the same time, knowing that maybe they just aren't right for this kind of industry. So that's a very difficult spot to be in.
Okay, we're going to pass the mic to Jim, and we're going to let Jim ask a question about the theme.
Well, the situation is one thing to talk about CEO. Another role, which is important to a management team, is the CMO, the Chief Marketing Officer, and taking the marketing process for a company is one of those real key processes to make it work. So what should somebody be looking for in the marketing side of the house?
Okay, so if you're hiring somebody specifically to help with the marketing of a company, what are you looking for? Somebody with what kind of skills?
Well, I'll speak to it from the standpoint of the kind of person we look for at Think Inc. And that is that we look for hybrids. And what I mean by that is that the folks who come and work with me and our colleagues, they need to be able to do different things. They need to be able to understand how to write, and write accurately and efficiently and correctly. They need to be able to think strategically. They need to be able to execute succinctly. They need to know advertising. They need to know PR. They need to know the new mediums that are emerging. They need to know all those things, and in knowing those things, they become a very hybrid person. They become almost a chameleon, and that's what I think a lot of companies need. They need chameleons who can do
Renaissance people.
Renaissance, that's a great way to put it, that's right.
Renaissance men and women. Okay, well, tell everybody just a little bit about the types of clients you've represented, that you currently represent now.
Our clients have, it's a broad range. Over 15 years, we have a lot of consumer work that we do. Everybody from Sheetz to Eaton Park restaurants to Dunkin' Donuts, a lot of food business, to a lot of business-to-business and marketing. Or business-to-business marketing that we're doing for clients, folks like Calgon Carbon, folks like Hyde Marine that make ballast water treatment systems for ships. I mean, there's a fellow who's here tonight with us off our staff. I mean, half the time he's in the office at 6 a.m. in the morning because he wants to be. Let's just make that clear. And secondly, because he's on the phone with folks in Australia and England and all over the world for that client.
Okay.
You know, so it's really cool.
So big, broad, large companies, startup companies, nonprofits.
Absolutely, a lot of work
charities.
a lot of work with the Boy Scouts, a lot of work with an organization called Ward Home, which benefits at-risk teenagers here in the Pittsburgh area. Great organization. Rock for the Heart, if you've heard about that organization, a great group for pediatric cardiac care. You know, so there's a lot of great nonprofits out there that we're privileged to work with.
All right, and the last thing we want you to know about Brian before we let him come up the stage, and really please talk to him during the second set. Bruce is going to dance like he does every week. He's going to go ahead, Bruce. He's pointing at a table, and we're asking you to leave business cards, leave take-home materials. Anybody who's up here, please leave take-home materials. Brian, how do people best find you? How do they best get in touch with you, engage, and support your efforts in the community?
Well, I mean, my business cards are back there on the table, and I didn't bring any fancy brochures and any of that sort of stuff, but you know, I think just pick up a card, and if you'd like to talk about something, or I can help you kick the tires on something, be happy to do so. You know, I know there's a lot of small businesses, a lot of, you know, self-employed folks here. You know, these aren't multinational organizations necessarily, you know, but you know, if there's a way we can help you, or a way that we just want to talk, I'm always interested in talking to entrepreneurs, you know.
Yeah. And go ahead. And last thing is, some of these people here may be starting up something brand new.
Correct.
How do they know if they should be the CEO, like when you start something up, or if you should hand it off to somebody else as you grow?
Well, it's a great question, and I'll answer it based on my experience. I would encourage anybody who is looking to start a company, or has a company that is fledgling, or they're getting off the ground and they're growing. There are some wonderful, fantastic groups that are out there designed specifically for entrepreneurs. You've probably heard of some of them, and many of you probably have too. I'll mention one of them because I was a member of it for almost a decade, and that's the Entrepreneurs Organization, which is an international organization. But what that group allowed me to do was to go and meet with like-minded entrepreneurs and like-minded people and get around the table and talk about, what are the big rocks I'm trying to move? How would you do it? How did you do it? You know, learning from your fellow CEOs and your fellow entrepreneurs is invaluable, because they understand what you're going through, they understand why you're doing it. And they can challenge your thinking about, well, why would you do that, for goodness sakes? Or have you tried this instead? So those groups are very important for you to be involved in, and that's...
And say the name of that group one more time. Is just
the group that I was a part of for many years was called the Entrepreneurs Organization.
Okay, the Entrepreneurs Organization. You can find that online.
Yeah, EO.org, I think,
okay,
or something. And there are other groups out there too, but that's one that I have some personal experience with.
Okay, and I think Dick Singer, if some of you know Dick Singer, was here before, and he has a nice organization as well and it's called Vistage.
Vistage.
Okay,
yeah.
And so peer mentoring, kind of peer.
Absolutely.
Okay, CXO. So we had CEO with Brian. We're going to have CFO represented. CXO means the X is everything else. And so talk a little bit about what's your company called? What do you guys do?
Okay. I'm with C-Level, and we help, our tagline, I think, says it all. Is that better? We help companies develop, launch, and grow their businesses. And all the partners are serial startupists, and back in the day when we were just getting started, we realized that having this kind of talent, senior talent available without blowing up your fixed cost structure could be really, really helpful. And so we help companies accelerate into and through the curve, the elbow of the curve, so they can generate that first customer traction, start getting a sense of what their strategy is, where they need to be positioned, so that then they can go out and recruit their full-time team, raise money if that's what they need to do. So we're really focused on helping companies get that first bit of levitation and then hit the gas into the curve.
What we really want to talk about is hiring now, the people part of the business, right? The people part of the business is, so when you're looking for top talent, CIO, CTO, technology, information, HR, all those key positions, what are some of the things that you advise companies to do when you're looking for those kinds of, talent? We had a show recently called The War for Talent. And so what are some tips?
It's a great question, because the war is getting harder and harder to win, right? I don't really read resumes anymore, which I think offends a lot of people when they send me their resumes. And it's not that I don't value that, but kind of that chronology is so easy to find out now. You can go to LinkedIn, you can reference people just like that. And so what I really urge people to do is think about the choreography and the chemistry. How are they going to fit in? Because imagine if you have a 5 or 10 person team, you drop one bad apple culturally into that, you can blow the whole team up, which generally is why early stage companies collapse. The team is very dysfunctional, not effective. And so we talk a lot about the strategy, the culture. How do you find someone that doesn't just fit in, but really leverages that and adds to that? So diversity is a really important issue here, bringing a different perspective. But the CEO at the end of the day has to just protect that culture and what he or she believes that company's about as vigorously as possible, and only hire people who can really advance that perspective inside the organization. I guess that's called leadership, right? And it's very squishy and intangible, but if you're not hiring leaders at any level, you're probably making the wrong hire.
Insourcing versus outsourcing. When you're a small company and you're growing, and maybe you're high growth, what are the roles that you need to have in-house, and you can outsource a couple of the other roles until you're larger? What do you recommend?
Well, I think that again gets back to what the company's about. There's normally a family jewel or two that you have to protect that has to be yours. Anything that is not directly related to that, to me, is a candidate for outsourcing. And that's a great way to handle resourcing. But again, I think it gets back to the leadership in the company determining what's most important to them. You protect that fiercely. If it falls outside those lines, it's a candidate for outsourcing. If it falls inside the lines, you better have that person inside the building.
All the boys, let's all go down and get together at the Natural Fudge Cafe. Catch the noise from Tinseltown, it don't get better. The Natural Fudge Cafe. Oh mama, smells familiar. Verbally speaking, really on my cup of tea. All my friends are underground, and they're not playing. The Natural Fudge Cafe. They're the best friends all around, and what I'm saying. The Natural Fudge Cafe. Oh fellas, let it be. We are just the fungus on the fudge and
involved with people doing business plans, and one of the most needed things I always see in startups, the financial projections.
Right.
And are they realistic? Are they not realistic? Talk a little bit about when people are starting something from scratch, something fairly early stage, or looking to grow to another level, and they're adding a whole new division or something. What's important about creating those financials for that kind of, if you're looking to attract investors, et cetera, partners?
Well, the initial thing that I find that most companies need to focus on from the CFO's perspective is generating healthy cash flow. So number one, as we were just talking, Jim and I, he's smiling because we were just having this conversation, but number one, to put together programs and focus on developing, for instance, a 13-week rolling cash flow forecast. Once your cash flows are stabilized through managing your working capital and your profitability, now you have the foundation by which you're attractive to lenders. So that, combined with whatever type of business projection you might be formulating for an expansion or going into a different into a different market, that piece really needs to be, if you want to have success, it really needs to be founded in reality. For instance, a weak business plan generally has projections like, we're going to start this and we are going to capture 3% market share in the first 3 years or something. Very arbitrary type numbers, without any real real digging down, talking to potential customers, maybe establishing an anchor customer to where you can actually build off of. That could be the difference between a strong and a weak business plan.
Get detailed.
You need to get detailed, and you need to have some facts. My experience with bankers is they don't really like a lot of arbitrary information. They want to know if you've got these 15 potential customers, letters of intent, whatever you need to do to establish some real stability in those projections.
To show that the cash flow is going to be real, a good
Right.
percentage, a high percentage.
Right.
Now, CFO services, a lot of people outsource those when they're early stage businesses. When is it appropriate to hire a full-time CFO?
When the need for talent and the cost for that talent would sort of intersect. I think a mistake that can be often made is a company grows to a certain size and they start looking at the outsourced costs for a position of these types of that we're talking about. And they think, well, I'm only having this individual run, say, 3 days or 2 days. And if I spent that money, I could get a full-time person. But the question is the talent that you're bringing in for a full-time person who's being paid at a certain
and
level,
experience, yeah.
you're going to have to find somebody that's less experienced. They may be aggressive, maybe have a lot of growth potential, but will they really bring to the table the guidance and be a true advisor to the business leader, or are they just going to be a taskmaster? So it really, I don't know if there's a boilerplate answer, but I think the key ingredient is to look at, when can you afford the talent that's necessary to be part of your leadership team.
He was a little shy. He was so sad of eye, but
Now, the most exciting trends they're seeing, it can be like the war for talent and hiring, it can be in one of the key positions, something that you're excited about, that you're seeing right now within your own businesses. Trends, Jim has the final word.
I think for us, we're starting to see certain sectors emerge. The education sector, startups focusing on technologies to deliver new content or delivering games that can actually deliver that content for some reason. We started seeing, you know, some of the big guys on the West Coast are really starting to plow a lot of money into this, and it's happening right here in Pittsburgh, which is really cool. Now, fortunately, we don't have that kind of dough here, right? But we have good entrepreneurs here. They know how to rub the heads and the tails off of a nickel to get a business going. So sector-wise, we're seeing a ton of deal flow now for technology companies in general, and the education sector seems to be heating up here. Empirically derived, right? We're just observing that, but it's pretty cool what's happening right now.
What I've seen over the last however many years is definitely a trend to where the financial arm of an organization represented by the CFO is really expected to be part of the organization, the management team, not just the accounting organization. And the CFO is anything but the accountant. What I've seen the role develop into, and really, whether it's a CFO or people within the finance organization, the role is to support the various C-level positions, to be their right-hand man. So whether the CFO would be the right-hand man of the CEO, but it's important that each C-level position has some financial representation, liaison, advisor, so that they can bounce all their ideas, all their plans off of somebody that can be a trusted advisor to give them a direction on what is really going to work out or projected to work out versus what's just a lot of smoke in the air. So I've seen in general the finance organizations change in that direction. So the real, I guess, the crust of it is that really any leader of a company needs someone that's going to be able, when the meeting's over and everybody's had their say, to throw everybody else out, sit down and talk about the hard facts, because businesses, whether for-profit or non-profit, without profits, cash flows, you know, really what's the point, and you won't be around long. So it's really having an understanding of any type of plan, whether it be your budget, your business plan, you know, what you're going to be doing next. Will that drive the profits and the projections that you anticipate? Will your efforts be fruitful?
I want to go back to something that Brian said. It's all about your staff. You know, you can have the greatest leadership in the world, but if your line personnel aren't doing their job, you're not going to get things done. And you know, I wrote a newsletter article some years ago called asking the question, are you a quarterback or an offensive lineman? And the idea is an offensive lineman's job is to go out and remove impediments so the glory boys can score touchdowns. And the thing is, who are the glory boys of a company? And believe it or not, it's your line personnel, because they're the ones who do the work that causes a customer to write you a check, which is what the real definition of scoring is in business.
It's always the same, unless we put a name to some of those things. It's gonna put our world in